Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 58. Lapdveha manusim yonim jnana vijnana sambhavam atmanam yona buddhiketa na kvachit kshemanapnudyat. Translation. A human being can attain perfection in life by self-realization through the Vedic literature and its practical application. This is possible especially for a human being born in India, the land of piety. A man who obtains birth in such a convenient position but does not understand his self is unable to achieve the highest perfection, even if he is exalted to life in the higher planetary systems. Purport. This statement is confirmed in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila 9:41. Lord Chaitanya says, Parata Bhumita Haila Manushya Janma Yara Janma Shatakara Karikara Paha Uppakar. Everyone born in India, especially as a human being, can achieve the supreme success through the Vedic literature and its practical application in life. When one is perfect, he can render a service for the self-realization of the entire human society. This is the best way to perform humanitarian work. Text 59. Smrite hayam pariklesham tata phala viparyayam abhayam chapyani hayam sankalpat viramet kavi. Translation. Remembering the great trouble found in the field of activities performed for fruitive results, and remembering how one receives the reverse of the result one desires, whether from material actions or from fruitive activities recommended in the Vedic literatures, an intelligent man should cease from the desire for fruitive actions, for by such endeavors one cannot achieve the ultimate goal of life. On the other hand, if one acts without desires for fruitive results, in other words, if one engages in devotional activities, he can achieve the highest goal of life with freedom from miserable conditions. Considering this, one should cease from material desires. Text 60. Sukhaya dukkha mokshaya kurvate dampati kriya tato nivrityara praptir dukkhasya cha sukhasya cha. Translation. As husband and wife, a man and woman plan together to attain happiness and decrease unhappiness, working jointly in many ways, but because their activities are full of desires, these activities are never a source of happiness, and they never diminish distress. On the contrary, they are cause of great unhappiness. Text 61-62. Evam viparyayam bhutva nirnam vigyabhimaninam atmanascha gatim sukshmam stanatraya vilakshanam vrishtasrutaptirmatrapir nirmukta svena tejasa jnana vijnana santripto madbhakta purusho bhaved. Translation. One should understand that the activities of persons who are proud of their material experience brings only results contradictory to those such persons conceive while awake, sleeping, and deeply sleeping. One should further understand that the spirit soul, although very difficult for the materialist to perceive, is above all these conditions, and by the strength of one's discrimination, one should give up the desire for fruitive results in the present life and in the next. Thus, becoming experienced in transcendental knowledge, one should become my devotee. Text 63. Etavan eva manujair yoganai punya buddhipi svatha sarvatmana gyeno yatparatmaika darshanam. Translation. Persons who try to reach the ultimate goal of life must expertly observe the Supreme Absolute Person and the living entity who are one in quality in their relationship as part and whole. This is the ultimate understanding of life. There is no better truth than this. Text 64. Tvammitachataya rajan apramato vacho mama jnana vijnana sampanno daryan asu siddhyasi. Translation. O king, if you accept this conclusion of mine, being unattached to material enjoyment, adhering to me with great faith, and thus becoming proficient and fully aware of knowledge and its practical application in life, you will achieve the highest perfection by attaining me. Text 65, please repeat after me. Shri Sukha Uvacha Asvasya Bhagavan Nitam Chitraketum Jagatguru Pashyatastasya Vishmatma Tataschantardate Hari. Shri Sukha Uvacha Asvasya Bhagavan Nitam Chitraketum Jagatguru Pashyatastasya Vishvatma Tataschantardate Hari. Shri Sukha Uvacha Asvasya Bhagavanitam Chitraketum Jagatguru Pashyatastasya Vishmatma Tataschantardate Hari. Shri Sukha Uvacha Vishvabhagavanitam Chitraketu Jagatguru Pashyatastasya Vishvatma Tataschantardate Hari. Shri Sukha Uvacha Asvasya Bhagavanitam Chitraketu Jagatguru Pashyatastasya Vishvatma Tataschantardate Hari. Ladies. Shri Sukha Uvacha Asvasya Bhagavanitam Chitraketum Jagatguru Vishvatma Tataschantardate Hari. Shri Sukha Uvacha Chitraketum Jagatguru Pashyatastasya Vishvatma Tataschantardate Hari. Shri Sukha Uvacha Shri Sukadev Goswami said, Asvasya, assuring, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Itam, thus, Chitraketum, King Chitraketu. Jagatguru, the Supreme Spiritual Master. Pashyataha, while looking on. Tasya, he. Vishvatma, the super soul of the whole universe. Tataha, from there. Cha, also. Antardade, disappeared. Hari, Lord Hari. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Ki. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, after thus instructing Chitraketu and assuring him of perfection in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supreme Spiritual Master, the Supreme Soul, Sankarshan, disappeared from that place as Chitraketu looked on. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th canto, 16th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled King Chitraketu Meets the Supreme Lord. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananda Shalakala Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stabitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Pajitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the Lord breaking it down here in the end. A few verses today and a little bit of progression here. We're starting with a human being can attain perfection in life by self-realization through the Vedic literature and its practical application. It's noticeable that 3 times during these verses it's stated, and its practical application. Right? It comes again. Anyways, I'm not going to find you. Trust me, they're there. This is possible, especially for a human being born in India, the land of piety. India, the land of piety. It's an interesting statement for a guy coming from the West. But nevertheless, there it is. We hear ever so often that we're following Vedic culture. We're not following Indian culture. It's Vedic culture. It's very stressed very much that it's Vedic, it's not Indian. And so what's the difference? Of course, the difference is that Vedic culture is the culture that emanates from the spiritual world, that it's based on higher principles, like the dress is based on simplicity, cleanliness, and the absence of false ego. There's no logos on this dress, you know. It's not trying to promote a certain type of subculture or anything. So it's simple and it's appreciated. You can go anywhere. I go anywhere in the world with this and people appreciate generally, you know. So that's Vedic culture. What about eating? You know, you have, it's a science. If you see Vedic cuisine, it's actually a science. You start from, you know, your bitters, then you're a little more rich, and then you're more fatty, and then you have a little, what's the word? The chutney, eluded me. And then going on to the sweet. So you have the chutney, have a little bit of the salty and the sweet at the same time. So it's a whole science. There's an idea behind it. It's not like just because I feel like it. So that's actually what we mean when we say Vedic. So, but here it specifically says India. It specifically states that India is the land of piety, and it's especially possible for human beings born in India. So this is Bhagavatam, and in the purport, Prabhupada says that Lord Chaitanya has the same point in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's stated. So how to understand that? Well, of course, there's a difference, but there's also a similarity, because it seems like the Indian continent or subcontinent is where people generally has taken up this Vedic culture to a larger extent than many other places in the world. So it would make sense that the Lord is favorable towards that, because Vedic means how the Lord likes it. It's just what goes on in the spiritual world. It's just what he likes, you know. So when we take that up, he reciprocates as we surrender. So he appreciates that, which is probably why he keeps popping up here. You know, I mean, in Satya Yuga he came as Lord Nrsingadev in Ahobilam, and in Treta Yuga he came as Lord Ramchandra, and then Dwapar Yuga you have Swayam Bhagavan Krishna, and then in Kali Yuga you have Lord Chaitanya. They're all appearing here. It's not like they pop up in Hong Kong or New York. They would probably be locked up if they did. But this place is just crazy enough that these things can go on. And Rupa Goswami says in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, he states that all these forms are Paravasta forms, means they're complete Swayam Bhagavan forms of the Lord. Lord Nrsingadev is the original Krishna. He manifests in a certain mood, but it is him. So we have other like Purusha avatars, Leela avatars, who are manifesting less qualities, but these four, Lord Nrsingadev, Ramchandra, Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya, they are the original Krishna coming to perform his pastimes. So of course, why does the Lord do anything? Because he likes it. You know, he doesn't have to do anything. He's God. You know, he can do whatever he wants. That's the great thing. Our problem is that we think we're God, so we think we can also do whatever we want. And that doesn't always work out so good. But for Krishna, it works out great. So that's why he comes here, because people are generally reciprocating. You know, generally people are not reciprocating. I'm from Denmark. There's not a lot of reciprocation there. So India is favored. You know, this whole idea that, no, I mean, we can apply our own culture. Sure, you can. But we just have to be completely straight about, then you're starting from you. If you're starting from the Lord, then you will check out what is he like, and you start from there. And because it's transcendental, that means we can do whatever we want and it'll still work. You know, it's not we can do whatever we want, so that means I'll do whatever I want. No, I mean, you can, but then there are other reactions for that. It's called karma, you know. But if you want to transcend, we can do whatever we want, so we do what Krishna likes, right? So then it works out very nicely. That's the point made here. And so it goes on to explain how as long as we are working for these fruitive activities, remembering the great trouble found in the field of activities performed for fruitive results, and remembering how one receives the reverse of the result one desires. So that's what happens in fruitive mentality. That's basically material consciousness. It's based on, I want the result for myself. And then you enter into the material realm where these things are going on, and then everything is turned upside down. So whatever it is you want, you're going to get the opposite, right? If you don't want the result for yourself, then you'll get good results. If you want the results for yourself, it's a matter of how much piety you have on the account before you spend it, and then the bad results start coming. Actually, bad results start coming from the moment you have that mentality. It's just that you may have some good piety that you can burn up before it manifests in the gross form, right? So we have some terms for that. There are Karana Sharir. Karana Sharir means that you have this contaminated consciousness, the origin of the contaminated consciousness. You have the Linga Sharir, which is your subtle body, a certain pattern of thoughts that are material. And then you have the Stula Sharir, which is the gross body, which is then the gross result of those thought patterns. So then you end up with something like this. And yeah, what to do? So you can work with the Vedic culture and Vedic injunctions, and then you can, because that's pious, it's how Krishna likes it, but you can still maintain your fruitive mentality in that. Does that make sense? So then you may have a pious body, but it's still a material body. So that's why it says, even if you're exalted to life in the higher planetary systems, you still won't achieve the highest result, because you're going to get affected. We're always affected. That's Tatastha Shakti. You're always affected by what's going on. So if you get good results, you start to think that it's going pretty well. I'm pretty good. And you're not. So then you start getting bad results, and that's the wheel of life, up and down. You think you're cool, and then actually you're not, and so it goes down, and then you think, oh, I'm useless, and then it starts going well, and then it just goes up and down like that, you know. So the point is, as long as we want the results for ourselves, we're stuck in that loop, right? So it's, and then we go on here, text 60, as husband and wife, man and woman, plan together to attain happiness and decrease unhappiness, working jointly in many ways, but because their activities are full of desires, fruitive desires, these activities are never a source of happiness, and they never diminish distress. So because basically men and women want different things from a marriage or a union, you know. Women want stability, and men, if they're not trained properly, they just want enjoyment. And that's just not, we see what's going on here with Maharaj Chitraketu. It's not working out. Even though he gets what he wants, he still doesn't get what he wants. He gets the child, he's happy, but then the women are unhappy because he's just looking at them as facility. What, 10 million wives? Are you kidding me? You know, how are you going to maintain that? So he gets a child with one of them. For him, hey, it's all good. I got what I wanted. But he's forgetting he's got 10 million unsatisfied women. So for anyone who's in Grihastha ashram here, they know an unsatisfied woman. So times 10 million. That's a problem. So they killed a child. So now it's even worse, because before he didn't have a child, now he had a child, and now he doesn't have it anyway. So the whole world crumbles. So the only good thing we can say about that is that it opens up his mind for maybe we should start looking at alternatives here, right? So that's the good thing, because it's never going to work like this, and we see that in the West, because the subtle body, the linga sharir of a man and a woman actually function differently. So the man, when he thinks, you know, the subtle body has three elements. There's the mind and the attachment, then you have the intelligence that discriminates, and then you have the false ego, which identifies with what is going on. That's kind of the three functions of the mind, right? So for a man, he's in one of these, it's like three separate rooms. He's in one of the rooms. So that's why men have a tendency to be impersonal, because they just go into the intelligence room, they like it, and they're there, and they're not sensitive. So in the Shastra, we recommend that men are sense-controlled and sensitive. Sensitive is specified because it doesn't come natural to us. We think if we've defeated something logically, then everything's good. But so basically, when Prabhupada mentions Mayavadis so often in the scriptures, it's us he's talking about. Because it's not like in New York in 1965-66, there were a lot of Mayavadis walking around in the Bowery district. No, it's us, because we have that tendency, you know. So for a woman, it's different. It's like one room. All of these things are working at once. So that's a problem, because for the man, if like they think differently. So they, as time goes, in the beginning it's all sweet, and it's just a source of rasa, and it's a little fun and inspiring that you're different. But then as time goes, that inspiration disappears unless you know what it is you're doing, right? So newlyweds, they would call each other honey and dearest, you know. And then as time goes, it's like when you say a word many times, like lunchbox, 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 lunch, it stops making sense. It just becomes a sound, right? So then after 20 years, they're still calling each other honey and dear, but it doesn't have any meaning anymore, right? So you know, like, honey, that's not good. You know, some of you guys may know that. Like, honey, okay, that's better. Or honey, the gray area, but honey, that's very bad, right? So it doesn't really matter what the word is, it's just the tone of voice. Or, now look what a mess you've made, dear. The dear part is just there, it's always been there, it doesn't really matter. So then what the man does is he first of all, pick your battles, but he might defeat her with his logic. You know, yeah, well, actually, I was just doing this, and the tools were there, and I had to get, and then the oil was dripping. And funny enough, she doesn't throw a tantrum. And he's thinking to himself, wow, that went better than I had expected. Because in the back of his mind, there's this little voice saying, it's not supposed to be that easy. But anyway, she's nice about it, and you know, a couple of weeks go by, and then the wife comes to the husband and says, you know what, I think you should go for a little walk. It's nice out, you know, fresh air, you should go out for a walk. And so she's all ready with the dress, and she's bought him some new shoes, and they're a little pointy, you know, and some tight khakis, and they're a little short, but this is how they wear them now, you know, and she's his jacket, his favorite jacket, he's gotten a little fatter, so the jacket doesn't really fit anymore, but it's his favorite jacket from 10 years ago, so he'll take it on. He's also got him a fedora, because everyone dressed like Frank Sinatra now, and he's like, yeah, okay. It's a size too big, so it kind of covers half of his head, you know, and you'd think that the man would catch on, but he doesn't, because he's in the room of false ego now. You know, so the intelligence has stopped working. So he's looking at him, so yeah, okay, I guess I'm okay, you know, and so she sends him on his way. And then she calls all her girlfriends up and says, you know, he's coming now. So they get ready by the windows and sees, and the man walks down the street, and they're all looking at him having fun. So that's clever. The difference is the man is intelligent and the woman is clever, right? The intelligence, he defeated the argument and all that, but the woman, she can work with intelligence and emotions at the same time, so it's much more fluid, it's much more dynamic, and it's more flexible. So she can do these things. It's very often that you see a man doing something around the house. He doesn't actually know why he's doing it. But the woman knows. She just didn't think it was necessary for him to know. You know, so this is how these relationships work. And it goes on and on and on. And as time goes, these, you know, I mean, these fights become more and more stale. Like, they're in the house and they're watching television, and they have the thermos with some tea on, and you know the thermos, when it cools down, it starts making this sound. Because, yeah. And they're both thinking, he should do it, or she should. In the beginning, there was just one of them would just, you know, but now, after 20 years, it dies a slow death on its own, and they're both thinking, it's not my turn, you know. And they're sitting in the dark because when they sat down, the sun hadn't gone down, but now it has gone down, and they're both thinking, no, I'm not going to be the one turning on the light. He should do it. She should do it. That's just how it is, because they have this fruitive mentality. They're actually in it for their own benefit, for their own pleasure. So it ends up being a conflict. Of course, Chitraketu here, he's in the Bhagavatam, so you got a pretty wild story about actually killing a child and stuff. That's why he's in the Bhagavatam. That's why we're not. But we can still, the principle is still the same. That if you're starting with yourself, you're gonna have a bad time. It's just a matter of when it's coming and how heavy it's coming. That depends on your kind of piety, but it will come. So then you have Lord Sankarshan coming here. Why? Because he kind of deals with it's like the Purusha line of manifestations of the Lord. So Chitraketu has these desires, these material desires. So whatever is there in existence, Lord Sankarshan kind of contains it. So if you just listen to him, everything will be fine. And we go on then to say that a person who try to reach the ultimate goal of life must expertly observe the Supreme Absolute Person and the living entity, who are one in quality, and their relationship as part and whole. This is the ultimate understanding of life. There is no better truth than this. So that's pretty direct also, that you have to start with the Lord. If you start with the Lord, everything works out, because it's not, you don't have to give up anything. You start with the Lord, so then naturally you will be detached, because it's about the Lord, it's not about yourself. Now, but doing some service, some activities will be there. How are you going to do service unless there's activity? When there's activity, there will be results. And because piety is how the Lord likes it, those results will be good. And then you'll have some sensory experience from that, you know. But all the negatives will be taken care of by the Lord, because it's for him. So he doesn't have to deal with the controlling and maintaining of it. Or you don't have to deal with it. He deals with that. So in that sense, bhakti contains all of these things. If we start with ourselves, no, I'm from this place, so I should be able to dress like this, or I like pizza, or all that, you can do that. That's fine, but it's not, as it says here, it's not the ultimate understanding of life. It's a beginning, you know, it's neophyte. We're all neophytes. Nothing wrong with being a neophyte. The only thing wrong is if you become committed to your neophyteness. Then, you know, if you start justifying your neophyteness, if you start, no, my neophyteness is better than your neophyteness, then it becomes sahaja. You know, that's a problem. That's a deviation. We've seen earlier in the Bhagavatam how Lord Indra actually is creating all these upper sampradayas. And then we fall into that category. It's not a problem to be in mixed devotion, but if you start justifying that, then it flips around. You start going the wrong way, because it's about yourself ultimately, right? So as long as it's about the Lord, you can be as nonsense as you want. He will help you and you will progress nicely. But as soon as you start justifying, and it doesn't really matter how many years you've been around, then it just goes the other way, and it's evident, you know. So the point being that we should not get distracted by the facility or the conditioning. It's there, and it will give us trouble until we're completely purified, and even then it'll just switch to Yoga Maya. From Mahamaya it will switch to Yoga Maya, and there will still be trouble. But at that point we will understand that the trouble is meant to increase rasa. You know, the gopis and Mother Yashoda, they're very worried about Krishna all the time. They're teasing each other, they're putting up obstacles for each other all the time. There's a lot of trouble all the time. You don't ever get what you really want, because that's not how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be dynamic. That's fun. You know, that's what rasa is created from. That's what relationships are created from. The problem is now, because of our karana sharir, it's also known as the Purusha Bhav, the idea that I'm the controller and enjoyer. We have this idea that no, it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be fun like this. It's my game. Actually, I'm in the center of this game, and everybody is supposed to play their part according to my desires. And then when you figure out that doesn't work, then you include piety. No, because Shastra says and such, but it's still selfish. So only when you actually connect with that Ichcha Shakti, means the desire potency of Krishna, that it's actually for his pleasure. Okay, it can be pious or less pious. None of us are really that pious when it comes to anyway, you know. I mean, just cleanliness. If you go through some of the Shastras describing cleanliness, okay, we're not exactly there. But that doesn't matter. If we have connected in the primary, that means the desire potency of Krishna, that we are actually doing it for his pleasure, then everything else will be taken care of. Everything else becomes a little detail. But as soon as we think that, oh, that means I can do whatever I want, that's Maya. That's total illusion, right? So we have to understand that, yes, following the rules and regulations, it is secondary. But it's necessary for us to connect with Krishna. If you love someone, you want to figure out what they like so you can do something nice for them. Like the man coming home, it's his wife, it's her birthday, and he comes home and gives her a set of wrenches that happen to go really well with the project he's got going on in the garage. Okay, you know, you got something, but maybe it's not ideal. You know, if he comes home with flowers and there's some restaurant that, yeah, just opened up something, that'll work better because it shows that it's about her. So if we love Krishna, we would want to make it about him and not about whatever conditioning we come from. So that's the transcendental nature, is that when you engage in service to the Lord, it doesn't matter what you do. You can do whatever you want. You can be a sannyasi or you can be an accountant, right? I just recently read, there's a little booklet about Gaur Govinda Maharaj leaving, and he's like in ecstatic symptoms for the last time, and apparently entering into the apricot lila of Krishna while he's still in the material body. That's pretty far out. So another little booklet I read is called Simple for the Simple. It's about this Mataji in Scotland who was an accountant, and Ratna Ranjini, you know, anyone? Anyway, she did the same thing. And she was apparently with Krishna and preparing his lunch, and she had a huge tumor in her brain, and the doctor said, look, usually we would pump them up on as much morphine as possible without killing them, and they would still be in excruciating pain at this point. And she was happy and telling about Krishna and how the Leela is going on and all that. So what's the point? The point is, it doesn't matter what we do. We can be a big-time sannyasi, we can be an accountant in Scotland, it doesn't matter. If we do it for Krishna, we'll go to Krishna. So this whole discussion, can we be this, can we be, what's my varna, just be a Sudra. It's nice, it's simple. You just do your duty, go home, chant your japa, Hari Bol, go back to Godhead. If you notice, who are we always complaining about? We're always complaining about those who are in those positions where we want to go. Why would we want to go there? That's where all the complaining is. So chill out. Do your duty, chant Hare Krishna, go back to Godhead. So that's what this is. That's the conclusion. And this is Sankarshan himself telling Chitraketu, you tried the other thing. It didn't work. You were very successful, materially speaking, you know. I mean, who marries 10 million wives? That you got to have some facility going on. But he was ultimately completely a failure, total failure. You know. So now, in this human form of life, is time to inquire about the absolute truth. And the absolute truth is transcendental to time, place, and circumstances, varnas, ashrams. So, yeah, that's the point. Just chant Hare Krishna, go back to Godhead. Any questions, comments, chastisements, glorifications of Krishna? There's one over there. Do we have a microphone? I think Brihad Madanga Prabhu? Oh, yeah. Mataji over here.
I don't have any reference from scriptures about this, what now I'm going to say. I just may say that women, they can be very violent without doing anything externally. But man who follows perfectly Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he can do everything because he is devoid of false ego. He can take care of women very nicely. Simply woman, she needs to be very cooperative. And
Yes.
Yes. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita only that among women I am intelligence, fine speech, fortune, memories, and steadiness.
Yeah, so the point is that if we say the woman should follow the man and she should surrender, what does that mean? It means the man starts by surrendering. Then she follows him and surrenders. So the man gets the flowers, he gets the coat, he holds the door, he pulls out the chair. He shows that he's surrendered to this, he's dedicated, he does it sense control, so he's not exploiting her, and sensitive, so he's sensitive to all the moods that are going. There are a lot of moods going on in the women. So he's sensitive to that, and then naturally the woman will surrender because there's something to surrender to. But this idea that, no, you should surrender, nobody's going to do that. You know, unless you show that there's something to surrender to. So yes, like you're saying, it's very simple. It's scaringly simple. Because it means you have a responsibility. When it's not working out, it's not your guru's fault, it's not your wife's fault. I mean, it's not even about fault, it's just fix it. So it's a practical thing. That's the point. Material relationships are practical, they're kind of mechanical. So it's like driving a car. I'm not comparing women to cars, but I'm just saying that there's a certain method. You do it, you know how to do it, it works. So like that. That's just what it is. And if you do that, then you can use your time thinking about Krishna rather than looking at the thermos going, thinking, when the hell is she gonna, you know. So that's the point, that we just deal with it how it's supposed to be dealt with. That's why we have the Puranas instead of I was quoting Vedanta Sutra before. Why do we it's the same philosophy. Vedanta Sutra is much shorter. Why do we have the Bhagavatam? Because as it's stated 3 times here, because of the practical application of this philosophy. It's here. Everything is shown how they do. So we just do the same, go back to Godhead, Haribol. That's the point. Prabhu.
We know we know the essence of Krishna consciousness is to always want to please Krishna with everything that we do.
Yes.
We learned that even before we became into Krishna consciousness from Jesus Christ, who said the whole essence of all teachings is that you love God with all your heart. And we want that goal. We know that that's what we're wanting, and that's where we need to be if we're ever going to become successful in life, happy and go back to Godhead. At the same time, we seem to have so many needs, or what may seem like desires. It's like pizza. Pizza comes up a lot. Everybody likes
pizza.
Yeah. So we come to
it's good.
Here we get a nice combination. If you come to the temple at 8 o'clock in the morning, you get to do something to please Krishna by worshiping the deities, by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, by chanting. And then you also might think, well, I kind of like to go over that Mahaprasad booth and get myself.
That's why it's there. That's why it's there. So
how do we balance that?
The idea is that's the misconception, is that I have a spiritual life and I have a material life, and they're 2 different things. That doesn't exist. There is spiritual life and then there's illusion. So spiritual means life and material means death. It's dead matter. So what you do is you just go for the higher taste. So now now that I'm here, I might as well advertise for the prasad that's being presented at the Bhaktivedanta Academy Gurukul by the Gurukul boys. This is top-notch Bengali preparations that they're presenting in a very scientific way, like I was saying earlier. And it's just a higher taste. So when you've had that to your full satisfaction, I would be impressed if you want to go for pizza afterwards. You know, but it's not about saying, oh, no to pizza, because we are dynamic, we are engaged. There is a seamless transition between the sense objects and the senses. So detachment doesn't work. We are attached. It's a matter of what are you attached to, what quality is it. Even if you're attached to Maya, you're still attached to Krishna, because there is only Krishna. The only problem is you're not seeing the connection. So the Vedic and the Indian preparation, they're working better at directing your consciousness towards Krishna. Like you see in the West, it's heavy meat eating. You cannot really think of Krishna like love God and then eat the creatures of God. That doesn't jive very well. So hey, go for the pizza. Whenever you feel like it, go for the pizza. But also try and go for the other stuff, because then slowly, it'll just, you know, as we purify, we'll see that there's a difference. You know, these oily preparations, they're like a punch in the stomach sometimes, you know. But by all means, I mean, I'm especially happy with sweets. I like burfi, just in case anyone was wondering. So I go for burfi. And sometimes I'm sitting, okay, did I really need 4 pieces? You know, and obviously when you're having that consideration, then obviously you didn't. But it's as long as you're engaged, then the quality automatically will increase. But just engage, you know, never say no to anything. If you're smoking, you want to stop, say yes to health instead of saying no to smoking. You know, so Tatastha Shakti means that we will be attached to something. It's either Krishna or the material energy. You know, so just make sure that it's Krishna as much as possible. Then the other stuff automatically will fade away. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Yeah? Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Guru Das. Guru Das is my god brother. He always has good questions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there a risk sometimes in when thinking, let's do it for Krishna, and being in this consciousness, that we end up sometimes doing less, thinking it's ultimately at least the consciousness as well? At least my observation has been a little bit that, for example, on Sankirtan, I'll give it as an example, because that if someone does little amount of books, and they're capable of a lot more, but then their excuse is, well, at least I was in the right consciousness. Is that a risk? Maybe you can give.
Oh no, it's true. Yeah, no, that's definitely a risk. That's why we say Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, and association is so important, because your friends will know if you're being sincere. But yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier with the Sahaja. That's where that Sahaja mentality comes in. It doesn't matter. They don't really. They like reading some of the scripture. They don't really like following what's in there. And if you're like that, you like Prabhupada, but you don't like following his actual instructions, then that's that Sahaja. Oh, it's all Krishna anyway. You know, it's all Krishna. So whatever, you know, I can. Whatever, play piano for Krishna, I can, whatever you want to do, you know. And that's basically where that starts, where that Sahaja starts. Prabhupada is painfully direct in his Bhagavatam, actually. And sometimes I'm a little bit suspecting that some of these devotees who are very vocal about these things, maybe they're not actually reading the Bhagavatam, because it's very, very obvious what Prabhupada means. And that there's such a thing as chala, where you just take words and you just mince them and juggle them around, and then you get to a whole new meaning. And that's what modern academia is extremely good at. And it also is a universal principle. So if you have a big false ego, a strong mind, or a weak intelligence, or God forbid all of the above, then that is what's going to happen. So like the initial statement about India, you could easily mix that around. That's actually not what he's meaning. But if you just read it, it's obvious, you know. So yeah, that's what sahaja means. Sahaja means easy. So you're just making it easy on yourself, cutting corners, and yeah, it's all for Krishna, who cares? But if it's all for Krishna, why wouldn't you care? That doesn't make any sense, I love my wife, so I don't have to give her a present. I don't have to talk to her. I told her I loved her 3 years ago. I'll let her know if anything changes, You're in the doghouse, That's not going to get you very far. So if you want that with relationship with Krishna, hey, you can do. But if you want to go back to Godhead, a little more effort, Is that all right? Thank you. Hare Krishna. Jai. Okay. One last question, maybe. Hare Krishna. Oh. Yeah. There's a microphone.
She says that
Everything material? Neutral?
It's not good nor bad.
Yeah, it depends on how you utilize it. Yes, so it's neutral in the sense that, okay, a knife, is it good or bad? It's a knife. It's not like it's good or bad. So you can do it. You can use a knife for cutting some flowers to present for the Lord, or you can do certain other things I don't need to get into. But that is where the good, bad comes in. It depends on, are you using it in the context it was supposed to? Everything is supposed to come back to Krishna. It comes from Krishna, supposed to go back to Krishna. We can take part, and that is what happiness is made of. That is what Ananda is. If we deviate from that, that's the bad part. So the tool itself, the knife or the whatever it is, that in itself doesn't inherently have value. It's neutral. But depending on how you choose to use it, that's where the value comes in. That's why Prabhupada says devotional service. Other big devotees have called it divine love or something. No, Prabhupada says devotional service because it indicates activity. Divine love, what is that? I just sit here and love, But no, devotional service, you get up and you do something. And you do it to please Krishna. That means you deal with things properly. And when you're done with the knife, you put it back so nobody gets cut or you forget where it is. That's where the value comes. It's in the activity. So that's why Govinda is our prime deity, because it's the Abhideya deity. It's activity. It's about activity. Then automatically the nice results will come and everything's good. Does that work? Yeah? Okay. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Prasadam ki.